All right, so let's move on to question 3. What are the biggest challenges and obstacles that still need to be discussed for intramurals to be a little more successful? I think we've touched on a few, but I think we may there may be some others that we can add to this. So let's start with Rowan.
I think one of the challenges that we are experiencing right now is kind of that sharing responsibility for the upkeep of our activity spaces and our equipment. We are a school that has lots of kind of community partnerships, and I don't know how many physical educators out there have spent a lot of time organizing equipment rooms and having it being beautiful and just so, and coming back maybe after a weekend or after a day and things aren't quite or things are blown apart or moved around, things like that. And it's a little bit disappointing, and then things go missing, and then you're losing some of the equipment that you had set aside to be able to run those programs that you're hoping for. And then the other piece I think that Dave touched upon was just kind of the stepping on each other's toes in big schools. Secondary schools, even large elementary schools, are definitely at Beal, which has lots of different people and thousands of students to attend with. It is difficult to make sure that the workload and the responsibility is distributed and communicated really well with everybody to be able to ensure that there aren't kind of breakdowns. This club is offering this club was supposed to offer this, and then we have 2 events and poor attendance because things are mistimed, and if 2 separate events could have been more successful running together, but nobody had thought to kind of communicate those things ahead of time. So it's the moving pieces, the responsibility for space, and then also that staff buy-in. Intramural programs are amazing, but also when students are doing it, there still is the accountability on a staff member within an activity space to still promote that safety component of physical activity, because students are students. They are learning about ensuring safe spaces, but they aren't experts at it at this point in time. And there are lots of people that would rather mark 100 extra things as opposed to set foot in the gym. There's a little bit of fear associated with it if you aren't super practiced. So it's a little bit of kind of inviting in staff to experience what the benefits of intramural programs could be and connecting it to something that's a little bit more universal, maybe the well-being, maybe the wellness aspects, maybe the mental health aspects, and to kind of tie those areas into this is why we want to offer these programs for students, not just to be physically active, but also to help them be more regulated in your classroom, be better manage stress within your classroom space. So being able to kind of find the hooks to get educators to better contribute or offer something to the benefit of all students outside of just a curricular space.
And that there is the $1 million question. When you figure out how to get all teachers on board, please let us know, and so we can share with everyone. I'm going to go to you, Nat.
Thanks so much. I'm so sorry. I do actually have to leave shortly, so I just want to add a couple things. Rowan, I completely agree with all the things that you talked about. Teacher supervision for sure is something that we are trying to figure out how to spread out a little bit more, as well as the equipment piece. When we come back, if we're not the ones in phys ed that are supervising, can we still find our equipment, and have we lost equipment? Because there's been a lot of equipment loss, especially in the open gym scenarios that have taken place in the past. We also have an issue with space, with the amount of extracurricular programs that are going on. We can't find enough space to run the intramurals because teams are practicing at lunchtime sometimes, and after school and before school and so on. So those are sort of the logistical pieces. I want to talk a little bit about a couple notes that I just made about inclusivity on sign up. Some of the tournament style intramurals that we run, one of the issues we've run into is that we'll say you can sign up as a team or you can sign up as an individual. And what will happen is that we won't have enough individuals sign up to make a team with the individuals, and then students who don't have a group of friends that will play with them can't participate in that sort of tournament style way of doing intramurals. So I want to mention that one. The non-athlete student engagement, I wondered about, and I'm sorry I won't be able to finish completely the discussion, but talking about the students who aren't necessarily very proficient in whatever activities that you want to do. We don't want to exclude the athletes that are playing on team sports, but sometimes it intimidates other students from joining because they're not afraid that they're not good enough. And the last thing that I really wanted to mention just before I go is the gender divide. I'll just talk about volleyball in particular. So I have a group of girls who are asking to have an intramural, and this is, we've set it all up and so on. But I'm not sure how other schools deal, and we can talk about how we deal with the idea of having girls only or boys only intramurals in a time where that's not quite so simple. So we want to, I just kind of wanted to talk about how to manage requests from students who are saying, well, I'm comfortable this way, but at the same time, making it a safe space for students who are trans or non-binary, and also for those girls who are saying, I want to be in a girl-only environment. So it's a hard, I don't know what to do sort of as a supervisor or as a helper to this program to make sure that everyone is included. So that's a challenge that I'm sort of looking to discuss a little bit. Thank you.
No, thank you, Nat. Lots of great questions. Nancy, would you like to add, or do you by any chance have any great suggestions for Nat?
I don't have any great suggestions, but I will add a couple of the challenges or obstacles that I see. I agree with communication. So, sometimes what I notice is one particular group or club might be seen as greater value than others within the club. So getting buy-in, as was mentioned, with all staff, that there is great value in intramurals. So getting the word out there. And I love the idea of inviting staff members in to see what intramurals is all about. Another challenge and kind of the next step we're working towards is how to get students who might not be comfortable at the moment, kind of to take that first step, through the gym doors and just get an idea and a feel for what intramurals is all about. Because in speaking with a number of individuals, when I've asked them, hey, come on out to intramurals, a number of them have said right away, oh, I'm not good at sports. So just kind of breaking that down and getting them to realize that, you know what, come and give it a try and see how things go. And there's lots of activities that we play and just to kind of, I feel like at my school, we need to somehow advertise a little bit more, whether it's, I've seen try days. So, hey, bring a friend and try intramurals for a lunch, or try intramurals one after school to see what it's about. Getting the students that are part of intramurals now, perhaps creating a promotional video of what intramurals looks like, sounds like, and feels like, and some testimonials. So just a bit more advertising and ways to get kids, students out there who might be a little bit hesitant is sort of a next step that I'm hoping to explore in the next few months to get more students out to intramurals.
Thanks, Nancy. I love that try day and videos idea. I think that's fantastic. Rowan, you had something to add.
I was trying to find the opportunity to talk to Nat before she unfortunately had to go, because I think she raised some of the kind of ongoing conversations around accessing physical activity and spaces. I really hear, regardless of kind of what program you offer, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't feel the most represented in there. So it's finding a balance to represent all different kinds of populations. So having, and I feel like the sport offerings and the skill level pieces kind of goes into who is going to be there, finding non-traditional activities. We had students last year run a culture day. And so the theme of the event was not necessarily physical activity, but what they did as part of that day, as part of that student-led experience, was they offered experiences for other people to try different cultural games. There was a couple of variations on limbo. There were some indigenous, like, I believe it's Indigenous Games, could be Indigenous Olympics. I'm not quite sure of the wording, but they have very specific types of skills that in different tribes, different groups, affinities, they would have kind of different trials that they would have to pass to show strength or skill or prowess as a hunter, as a gatherer, different flexibility things. So they were able to kind of showcase those pieces of their cultural identity and bring more people out. And then that created a buzz and an interest for other people to kind of try different days. The try day, looking at kinball, we hosted like an OPHSA try day where we got a grant to have somebody come in and take a look at kind of the non-competitive side of things, looking at collaborative games and looking at different materials, like different size balls, different activities or twists on traditional games to kind of level those playing fields a little bit. I also don't mind the idea, there's been like an own this space or an own this ice or this is our house kind of concept where you can have like a sign out of a space for a particular group. We've had our Muslim Student Association book out the small gym space for prayer and then a social activity as well, which involved, they got out some ping pong tables as well. So offering those spaces or offering that opportunity for different groups that would like to gather and be homogenous together to access and then plan and lead activities within that space that's specific to their group. I think as teachers, you would like to create activities that are accessible for everybody, but giving students the opportunity to take ownership or plan what they would like to have for their specific population, I think is a kind of it parallels some of the things that we're talking about in terms of best practices, but a shift on traditional mindset. It's often us building something and students will come, as opposed to students building something for themselves and they will be there. Just as a couple things to kind of consider, or things that are floating out around in my brain based on Nat's comments.
Great, thanks, Rowan. Okay, and Dave, in all of your years' experience, you must have some knowledge to share with us.
I'm going to go off the board a little bit here, Karen. So
absolutely,
funding is always an issue in terms of new equipment and new initiatives. So Bex put in the chat about OPHSA's Try Day, which isn't what Nancy was referring to in terms of her Try Day, but Try Day grant or Try Day funding from OPHSA. It's now changed this year, but there is that funding model or other funding models that are available. Supervision is always an issue. Time, you having the time, you don't have to run your intramural program every single day of the week. Everybody needs time, you included, your kids included. So keeping that in mind and allocating like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, the following week, like you can play with your schedule depending on whatever. The whole facility thing is definitely an issue, especially in large schools where you don't have a common lunch, or your lunch is your gym is your lunchroom in some elementary schools or whatever happens to be. I do have a tough time, even as a secondary educator and as a coach. My school team should not be taking my gym at lunch. That's for intramurals or something along those lines. So one of the big things is we have to shift the mindset in schools to help support all kids, not just the 10%. It's what are we doing with the other 90%? We've seen during the pandemic and we're seeing the fallout now, When kids don't have that physical activity outlet, we have some mental health issues. We have some behavioral challenges, that self-regulation isn't there. This is a way to let off some steam, and intramurals at lunchtime will support everybody. Go recruit other staff members. Ask them, can you give me a day? Or how many days could you give me in a semester? Or how many days could you give me in a month? And then schedule around their availability. If they're not comfortable, as Rowan said, then maybe find something that's just supervising, unlocking and locking the doors on an open gym day, things like that. I think I'm gonna read something. One is a quote. The first one is, if your school invested all its time, resources, and money that it currently puts into the provision of inter-school sport and put it into the provision of informal intramural sport, would it have a greater impact on nurturing the physical educated person? So I'm going to say yes. And therefore, I'm going to challenge educators that we need to shift our mindset a little bit about how we structure our day and plan around our inter-school sports and things like that. The kids that are struggling, this is a way to help them. And I think that's an important thing. And then the other piece is our programming and our structures. Volleyball leagues, intramural hockey league or floor hockey league, whatever, they tend to take up time, like months, to get the whole schedule done, depending on the number of teams. So restructuring and reframing how we do things, and keeping in mind, intramurals, they constitute theme days, self-directed activities, traditional sports and traditional structures, clubs. Clubs are part of intramurals. It's things that are done outside of the class. So run a euchre tournament, do some backyard games, have whatever is the ongoing thing. Try to incorporate it into your programming so that it brings more people. Have a staff team. Staff teams are always lots of fun. Fundraisers for the intramural program: staff student volleyball game, staff student basketball game, staff student floor hockey game. I guarantee it will be packed. Okay, just because they want to play. Two more things quickly. One is the whole concept of meaningful PE. Okay, if you look at the 6 attributes: social interaction, just the right challenge, personally relevant learning, delight, fun, and motor competence. That's what intramurals is all about if it's done right. I came across at PHE Canada's national conference alternate environmental activities. Take them outside. Find a way to utilize a scavenger hunt. Find a way to take them out on a nice day. Even today was a nice day. You go out on your field. Okay, do something like whatever. And then the last piece is the idea of we as teachers need to be self-reflective, and we need to teach our kids to be reflective, because not everything will go 100% the way they envision it going. So being able to cope with and be flexible and not necessarily default to, well, we ran it last year, let's run it this year. So those programming and format choices that you put in place are really good. And if you read, and this is for Nancy, the elementary DPA PPM, if you read it and you have ongoing structured intramural programming, it can constitute supporting your DPA initiatives in your school. It's written right there in the language of the PPM. But you have to have the entire school invested in opportunities on an ongoing basis for kids to engage in physical activity at lunchtime or sometime outside of the classroom. But then you are supporting your colleagues with DPA, and that's where the student leadership comes in as well. They can run the activities with the supervision of staff. So all of those things combined, the challenge is ours as educators to find ways to meet the needs of all of our kids in all of our schools.